Good morning, y'all. I'm out on one of my leased properties. Actually, there's two separate properties here, but give y'all kind of a little look at this place here. It's an older farm that got subdivided somewhat back about 8 years ago. I think the original landowners had, sorry, I can't see the camera, so I can't keep my face in it, but they had passed away and their children didn't want all the property, so they had sold it off, and I think a company come in and subdivided it into 15-acre mini farms. And the one daughter of the original property owner kept the old farmhouse across the highway, and they've been renovating it. I don't know how many acres they've got over there. Looks to be probably 45 or 50, and they probably had 100 plus acres across the road that they sold. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to use quite a bit of it. I originally got in with one couple that had just purchased a piece of property, 15 acres, and I started working on it. And the old barn was next door on another property, and I saw a guy over there cutting hay, and actually he was cutting over onto the place that I was taking care of. And I did a little research and ended up contacting a lady in Southern California that had bought the property that has the old barn on it, and just Google searched and found her and found a phone number and talked to her, and she's like, yeah, they were paying a guy to bush hog the property twice a year, and he wasn't doing a very good job, and he wasn't bush hogging it. He was actually cutting the hay off of it, which the end result's the same, but he was benefiting from it twice. He was being paid to cut the place, cut the property, cut the grass, and I don't know ethically if that was right or not. But anywho, get this flipped around here. You can see where I've bush hogged and where it's green grass on the left. That's the property line between the 15 acres and the 45 acres. This property is terraced. In between the property lines, the 15 acres is the only place that has the terrace is still in place. They've been removed on each side of the 15 acres. And you can see the broom sedge growing over on the other 30-acre tract that I don't have. I could have got it. The guy wanted it cut immediately, and I couldn't get to it. And another guy come in and cut the hay off of it late this year. There was only one cutting on it. First cutting was in August. End of July, 1st of August. So this 15-acre tract right here that I bush hogged, it's getting close to being ready to cut hay off of. Those dang terraces in it, those swells are brutal. I cut from that first swell that you can see back toward the highway here. I did cut it this year, and I cut it as a part of this field over here. They had a wedding here last weekend. The landowners, the young couple, they had a big tent and everything out, and they had been mowing this little front part ever since I cut the hay off of it back in the spring. They'd been mowing it down to putting green thing, and they put some topsoil down. They'd bought some topsoil and everything. But it's amazing how hard the ground is out here now. when you walk over where I've bush hogged and it's soft and it's unlevel and everything else, and where they've push mowed this place, this right here, to make it look like a putting green. They've really harmed the ground. It's amazing how you harm the ground doing that. And amazes me now that since I've started this regenerative kick on trying to practice that style of farming, I'm aware of things. And before I bush hogged this, it was amazing the little bit of hay that I cut off the 15 acres right here that's been bush hogged. You could tell where I had cut hay back in the spring. It was more broom sedge. The ground was not as good. I mean, it makes it, you're definitely taking nutrients off the ground and not putting them back when you cut hay. We'll walk over here to the barn, show you the back fields here, but this is the practice I'm going to start, trying to pick up some of these properties that that people are purchasing, especially people from out of state. That's a big thing around here in Tennessee right now, is there's a lot of people from California purchasing these tracts of land, and they're absentee landowners, which is fine, which is okay with me, as long as the land stays where it can be used in agriculture. I really have no problem with it. You can see where the moving guys drove out here in this when they were tearing down the tents. They had no business driving out here in this, but anywho, it happened. But yeah, I've got this access to use this barn and cut these back fields also. I'm at this point 100% square bales. Pretty neat old barn. Needs a little bit of TLC, but all in all, it's pretty good shape. It was a well-built barn back in its day. Not sure how old it is, but you can see some of my hay. There's 2 or 3 runs of second cutting in there. There's the access, the ladder to the loft. This is some that fell, and I think those first runs there are second cutting. Yeah, I know they are, because I can see back in the back the yellow hay. So there's 45 or 50 bales of second cutting there. My cattle, I got to sneak it in on them. That second cutting from out here, they really didn't like. There's a little bit here. The loft is only 2 of the 3 bays. So this was open here with tier poles. Obviously they did tobacco. There's actually the old baling boxes are still up in the loft. But yeah, I had this bay completely full of hay just a month or so ago. So that's kind of showing you my hay consumption. Walk around here to the side, you can see the highway. Beautiful old post oaks, a few white oaks, a few red oaks, mostly post oaks in this grove here with the barn. Unbelievable amount of clover in this here. The ground must be really rich up here around this barn, because in that swell, or that, not swell, but the drain, the low spot down through there out into the hayfield, I barely can get that baled. That's usually so thick. The way the sun never really doesn't get on it that much either. You know, right there below the tree line. And actually I've had to sacrifice first cutting and second cutting, first couple of windrows. I can't get it to bale. It just will not cure right there. I'm gonna try to get in and cut as soon as I can on this property next spring. But it's a little used up, the ground. It's had hay cut off of it for obviously several years. So these higher ridges and stuff, you can see the backside of the hay. There's the Ford 532 baler. That's the money maker. The 360 long. And yes, that is a 10-foot bush hog hooked to a 360 long tractor. It does well with it, surprisingly enough. It does really well with it. But you can kind of see the hay there in front of it. I don't have the means of getting hay into the loft, and I didn't cut enough out here. I was able to put almost 1,000 bales down on the ground down here. And if I wasn't parking the tractor and the baler in here, easily get over 1,000 bales. But getting in here, I actually acquired this a little late, and as wet as it was, I wasn't able to cut the hay as soon as I wanted to. Ooh, hole there. About took me down. The old hay rake. It needs to go back home. Have a little TLC done on it. Those dang swells out there in that field, those terraces. Man, they're hard on the hay rake. Really hard on that hay rake, and it needs some love. A lot of clover popping back up out here. Feeling the crunch of the white oak acorns. But this is pretty much this little field here, probably 8 acres, give or take. There's a little bit of the old original field that's growing up down there because that's a property line and I don't have access to that property. So that's why there's that buffer zone growing up at the end of the field. But it's decent hay. Cattle like it. There's still enough fescue. There's not a lot of clover left out here. It's just been cut and cut and cut. But there's some coming up. Getting in here and cutting, fall cutting, maybe it helped it, maybe. But I mean, it's getting used up. Of course, there's nobody putting any fertilizer or anything down, which is a good thing. But it's just been taking and taking and taking, and it won't be long till this field will need a rest. And that's one thing I want to have to talk over with the landowners here is, first off, what's their long-term goal here with this? And I'm going to have to get some other hay areas secured, and if they're just planning on building a house out here, and generally, if let's say they build a house right here on top of the hill, it's going to eat up most of this 8 acres, and I'll still have the 15 over here, and I'll still maybe be able to cut a little bit of hay off of this place, but it'll eat up a lot of it. And that's something that I've got to look into and address here soon. One of the septic tank stakes I knocked down mowing the hay, and I wish I'd come out here with my hammer. But anywho, that's just a look at this property here, and kind of shows you cutting hay. This thing is level, it's flat, and it's hard. I can go over to that 15 acres next door that we just walked from, and areas of that have not been cut in obviously several years, and the ground is spongy, it's alive. I mean, there's a lot of weeds in it, but there's a lot of good grass in it, and you can definitely tell the ground's alive. Here's an old dozer pile where they've pushed up a bunch of stuff, and look how dark that ground is. And no telling where they pushed this stuff up from when they subdivided this property. But there's all your organic matter. Probably come out of these trees right here, or that bare spot. And it's just a shame. But you know, like I said, I've got to talk with the landowners here soon and see what their long-term goal is, and see if I can keep this property secured for a while. And that definitely impacts my property that I own 25 miles from here. So just giving you a quick look at this. Oh, also, I'm going to be doing new cutoff knives, or sharpened cutoff knives, in the 532 baler. I'm going to do a video of swapping out the bale knives. So just letting you know. So appreciate it, and y'all have a great day.